Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to Ask Huda. I'm your host, Jamil Rashid, and happy to welcome back today Sheikh Mohammed Salah. Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Jazakallah khair, Sheikh, for being with us today. Let's go through our telephone numbers for you at home there. The country code is 202, then it's 38555 248 or 249. Our email address, as usual, is ask@huda.tv. And as usual, two notices. One, please do turn down your television sets when you do call. And the second, if you do call, please try to call with a good line. We get some calls from some parts of the world from the internet, and it sounds nice at the beginning, but later on it fails and it holds up the other callers. So please do try to call from a good line. Sheikh, let's start with Sister Tasneem from the United Arab Emirates. She said, in our home country, the non-Muslims usually burn the bodies of their deceased. When it comes to this, they've got ashes now. How do they return into their grave? She's asking. Are they punished the same way as other non-Muslims, Sheikh?
Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillah wassalatu wassalamu ala nabiyhi wa mustafah Sayyidina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa man wala. All praise due to Allah. We praise Him and we seek His help. Whomsoever Allah guides is the truly guided one, and whomsoever Allah leaves astray, no one can show him guidance. I send the best peace and salutation upon Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam. This is a very interesting question, because somebody might think that he can undermine Allah, God forbid, or he can play games with Allah, that he can enjoy his life, then run away or get away with his misdoings in this life by incriminating his body or burning his corpse to ashes. That's not going to happen. The Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam informed us in several sound hadith about a story of a man from the nations before us. When he felt near to his death, he gathered his children and he made his final will, and he advised them that if I ever die, bring my corpse and burn it into ashes, then wait until it is a windy day, then blow it or scatter it in the stream of the river or the ocean, so that the ashes or the atoms of my body will be spread everywhere. That's going to be impossible to assemble my body once again. So the Prophet ﷺ informed us that when he died, his children fulfilled his will. Then once they did, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reassembled all the atoms in the ashes of his body, which were scattered everywhere on a windy day in the stream. Then when he assembled him before him, he said, "Abdi, ma hamalaka ala fi'li hada?" Why did you do that? He said, Ya Allah, I have transgressed a lot against myself, and I have disobeyed you a great deal, and I was afraid of meeting you. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, you know what, I have forgiven you your sins. But the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam is informing us about an incident in a sound hadith from the nations before us. It does not mean it's permissible to that, it's prohibited. Yet, but he's informing us that Allah's power of reassembling and reviving the dead, even if the bodies were burned into ashes, even if their corpse were swallowed by the whales, by the fish, or by wild animals, or in explosions, Inna Allah ala kulli shay'in qadir. As a matter of fact, I have traced the interpretations of one verse of Surah Yasin. It's in more than 10 tafsir. The verse is, أَوَلَمْ يَرَ الْإِنسَانُ أَنَّا خَلَقْنَاهُ مِنْ نُطْفَةٍ فَإِذَا هُوَ خَصِيمٌ مُبِينٌ. Then وَضَرَبَ لَنَا مَثَلًا وَنَسِيَ خَلْقَهُ قَالَ مَنْ يُحْيِي الْعِظَامَ وَهِيَ رَمِيمٌ قُلْ يُحْيِيهَا الَّذِي أَنْشَأَهَا أَوَّلَ مَرَّةٍ وَهُوَ بِكُلِّ خَلْقٍ عَلِيمٌ. This is an amazing story. Ubay ibn Khalaf, one of the Meccan chiefs, he was a disbeliever. He came to the Prophet ﷺ with a very old, rotten bone. And he rubbed it between his fingers. It turned into powder. And he said to Muhammad ﷺ, said, "O Muhammad, do you claim that your Lord can revive this rotten bone after it has turned into powder? once again reassemble it and bring the person, this dead person, back into life. Look at the certainty in the answer of the Prophet ﷺ. He smiled and he said, نعم ويبعثك ويدخلك النار. Not only that, certainly Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is capable to do that, and He will definitely do that. He will revive the dead, and after you die, He will revive you, will resurrect you, and He will take you into the fire of hell. That's to Ubay ibn Khalaf. في سورة غافر, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, so once again, that is the reason of the revelation of the verse of Surah Yasin, أَوَلَمْ يَرَ الْإِنسَانُ أَنَّا خَلَقْنَاهُ مِنْ نُطْفَةٍ. Very, very interesting verse. That the insan, mankind, doesn't realize that Allah created him from a nutfa, sexual discharge. Very insignificant thing. Very disgraced thing. He made him into a human being, a complete, perfect human being from this sexual discharge. Then afterward, he turns to be an opponent to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Not just an opponent, but a plain and a clear opponent to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. فَإِذَا هُوَ خَصِيمٌ مُبِينٌ. Then وَضَرَبَ لَنَا مَثَلًا. Referring to Ubay ibn Khalaf when he brought the rotten bone to the Prophet ﷺ, says, مَنْ يُحْيِي الْعِظَامَ وَهِيَ رَمِيمٌ. Who can revive the dead after it has become rotten? قُلْ يُحْيِيهَا الَّذِي. They say that it is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala who created it the first time. He is able to create it once again, revive it once again, and He is fully aware of every creation of His. If we travel in the Quran to Surah Ghafir, there is a very interesting verse which is to the point of the question. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says concerning the Pharaoh and his people. We all know that Musa's Pharaoh was drowned and his entire army. And that means their corpses were eaten by the fish or disintegrated in the sea. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, النار يعرضون عليها غدوا وعشيا. النار يعرضون عليها غدوا وعشيا. They're being exposed to fire غدوا وعشيا, in the morning and in the evening, day and night. Somebody might argue and say, but that's referring to the hereafter. Not in Hayatul Barzakh, not before the day of resurrection. But the continuation of the verse proves otherwise, because it says, then وَيَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ أَدْخِلُوا آلَ فِرْعَوْنَ أَشَدَّ الْعَذَابِ. Then on the day of resurrection, admit the Pharaoh and his people into the worst and the severest torment. That means they're living in torment right now. They're being punished. And then on the day of resurrection, there is even a severer and more painful torment. From all of that, we understand that even if the body has been cremated, burned into ashes, thrown in the desert, on a windy day in the stream, in the ocean, إِنَّ اللَّهَ عَلَى كُلِّ شَيْءٍ قَدِيرٌ. That as He created it the first time, He is definitely able to revive the atoms of the deceased and then bring him to accountability and punish him or reward him, give him an accurate and just, equitable recompense according to his deeds in this life.
Jazakallah khair, Sheikh. We have Brother Imran, the first caller of the day from the United Arab Emirates. Brother, you're live unasked. Could I have your question, please?
Yes. Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
First of all, I would like to congratulate, ask Huda for wonderful thing that they are doing. And also, I would like to congratulate Sheikh Saleh. I admire him a lot.
Jazakallah khairan. May Allah forgive us.
I know that a lot of people waiting to call you. Just 3 questions. I'll go over them quickly.
Okay.
My first question is about Islamic financing. My bank account is an Islamic bank. So what all should I check in the bank that whatever transaction they are doing, they are Islamic or not?
Okay.
Second question is, there is a hadith in Abu Dawud. This number is 1534. It says that Abu Hurairah narrated that Prophet, peace be upon him, said, if anyone makes 2 transactions combined in one bargain, he should have the lesser of the 2, or it will involve usury.
Correct.
Can you explain this?
Okay.
Okay. My third question is a little local question about this area. Over here, the houses are paid by the company. The company hires the house for us. So there is a limit given that, okay, we can take the house of this much amount. So a person from Askan comes and he sees the house and he says that, okay, this house is okay, you can hire it. But I make a separate deal with the landlord and I ask him that, okay, you will give me the curtains, you give me the carpet, and sometimes people say that, okay, you give me this much money also. So is it allowed?
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Barakallah Fiq. Brother Imran there from the United Arab Emirates. Jazakallah khair for those questions, brother. Okay, let's turn to Sister Sumayya's question from Qatar. She said, I heard from a particular scholar that you use the siwak, okay, by holding it with the left hand. She says, is this true, knowing that all good things stem from the right? And also, does this also include the toothbrush?
You actually raised a very delicate question, which is the issue of utilizing the right hand and the left, or versus the left hand. Mm-hmm. Because the Nabi ﷺ taught us that he always uses the right in doing good things, such as beginning his wudu by washing the right organs, and washing by the right hand, eating using the right hand, drinking using the right hand, writing using the right hand, shaking hands with the right hand, entering the masjid with the right foot, entering his house with the right foot, versus doing things such as leaving the masjid with the left foot, entering the bathroom, entering versus leaving the masjid with the left foot, cleaning up after any mess, after urination, defecation, answering the call of nature for your baby is with the left hand. And Nabi ﷺ prohibited us from touching our privates by the right hand. Use the left hand. So that's why Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal, may Allah have mercy on him, have actually dealt with this issue in details as far as using the miswak. Using the miswak is a process of purification. Purification of what? This is a ibadah, but it deals with the purification. So I should actually utilize the left hand, not right hand, because it is removing harmful things or impurities from the mouth and beneath the teeth. And that's why he says that you use the left hand while using the miswak. Same thing that if you want to use the toothbrush. But of course, once again, using the miswak is also considered as a mean of worship. And Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, whenever it is on the day of Friday, you should take a bath. This is a commended sunnah. And if it is possible to wear any cologne, and وَأَنْ يَسْتَنَّ, meaning to use the miswak. And in another hadith, he said that if I'm not afraid it will be too much for my ummah and too difficult to observe regularly, I would have commanded them to use the miswak prior to every salah. So al-miswak is a prophetic, beautiful tradition of the pure nature. It is highly recommended. It's not a must though. And it is very good and healthy for your personal hygiene. And it is best to use the miswak by the left hand. Of course, if you use it by the right hand, no problem, but it is preferable. And that takes us to the interesting part of the question, which is, what difference does it make if I use it by the right hand or the left hand, or shake hands with the right hand or the left hand, or why? Why do you complicate things? Actually, no. It is to reiterate the fact of servitude to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Even the process of maintaining my personal hygiene is a mean of worship. Shaking hands is an act of worship. Eating and drinking, by making my prayers in the beginning, Bismillah, Alhamdulillah, الذي أطعمنا وسقانا وجعلنا مسلمين, اللهم بارك لنا فيما رزقتنا وارزقنا خيرا منه وقنا عذاب النار. All of that turns the habits into ibadat. So this is a message for those who belittle the issue or the concept of using the right hand in certain things versus the left hand. And they say, hey, we're in the 21st century. People have gone to Mars and to the moon, and you're still talking about actually what takes us not only to the moon or Mars, what takes us to higher than all of that, to heaven, is following strictly the guidance of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam.
Jazakallah khair, Sheikh. Okay, we have Brother Muhammad from Egypt. Brother, you're live on Ask Huda. Your question, please. Brother Muhammad, you with us?
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Sheikh, I'd like to ask you a question regarding a marriage. I'm worried.
Okay, brother, could you try to turn down your television set, please, brother?
And I promised her that if I went back to, like I used to smoke, I promised her if I smoke a cigarette again, she would be divorced from me. And I went back to smoking, but I eventually quit. So I'm just wondering, is that considered a divorce, or is she still lawfully my wife? Like I promised her, considering that. Thank you very much.
Barakallahu feek, brother. Brother Muhammad there from Egypt. Just a reminder to the brothers, please do turn down your television sets because we do get feedback. Jazakallah khair. Okay, Brother Farhan from the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia had a couple of questions. The first he was asking, the praying positions, the way we pray, does it vary from the males to the female?
Some jurists have discussed that in details and tried to find a reference in some hadith as that women should cover, so they should not lean as men they do lean all the way. Same thing in sujood, they should collect their arms. In reality, and after investigating this case thoroughly, I have figured out that there is not a single sound hadith that differentiate between the prayer style of a man from a woman, or vice versa. As a matter of fact, the hadith which is stated in Sahih Imam Bukhari, which is reference with regards to the salah, the Prophet ﷺ said, "Sallu kama ra'aytumuni usalli." So what did he say? He said, pray as you've seen me praying. He never distinguished between the prayer of a man from a woman. And this is something that the believers used to observe not just 5 times a day, throughout the day and the night. And many of the wives of the Prophet ﷺ have seen him praying at home, and he has seen them praying, he has seen women praying. He never instructed them in a sound hadith or even a hadith that we could rely on as that women should pray differently. We recognize that the only difference concerning the prayer of a woman from a man is that the Prophet ﷺ commanded men to pray the fard in the masjid in congregation, while he said to women that if you pray at home, your prayer at home is superior to your prayer in the masjid with regards to the word. So the conclusion regarding that, after thoroughly investigating the case, that in reality there is no difference between the prayer of a man from the prayer of a woman, that we both pray the same way that the Prophet ﷺ used to pray, with regards to standing, ruku', sujood, and sitting and making tashahhud as well.
Jazakallah khair. Okay, Brother Farhan had a second question. He said, if I wish to read the Quran or do any good acts of worship and ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to reward the prophets before us and the people before us, is this something that is allowed, Shaykh?
I do remember that Shaykh al-Islam ibn Taymiyyah, may Allah have mercy on him, who's a great reference to this ummah, has a message or a book, a little booklet that he authored concerning this issue, that doing good deeds and giving away their word of my righteous deed to the Prophet ﷺ. And he dealt with this issue from a very scientific point of view. He said, number one, giving the reward of your work, the harvest of your hard work to somebody, that means depriving you from this reward, because it's not to be divided. It's either for you or for somebody else. So when you give it to the Prophet ﷺ or anybody else, that means you have deprived yourself from the reward of your own work. Why? Because I want it to benefit the Prophet ﷺ. What if I tell you that according to the Quran and the Sunnah, that every little or big good deed, good righteous deed that a believer does until the day of judgment, from the time that Prophet Muhammad ﷺ was sent to mankind until the day of judgment, a similar word of it will be deposited in the balance of the hasanat of Rasulullah ﷺ. The Prophet ﷺ says, one who invites people to Huda, to guidance, shall receive a similar word of those who practice this guidance, this ibadah, this Huda, follow the straight path, yet that would not diminish nor affect the word of either one of them. Meaning, you pray and I pray. Your prayer, you have the word of your prayer for yourself, and a similar word of offering the prayer is automatically deposited in the mizan, in the scale of the good deeds of the Prophet ﷺ. In another sound hadith, the Prophet ﷺ said, "Man sanna fil Islami, aw man istanna fil Islami sunnatan hasanatan, له فله أجرها وأجر من عمل بها إلى يوم القيامة لا ينقص ذلك من أجورهم شيئا." And one who prescribes for the believers a good thing to do, so that people would follow him, every person would do this good tradition, would receive a reward for it, and a similar word would go to the first person who inspired the ummah, who prescribed the thing. Of course, that was the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Because after his death, there is no more legislation. It's not any person to say, I'm going to invent a new sunnah so that the ummah would do and I would receive a reward. You're not a prophet. Revelation has been seized. The last prophet to mankind was Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. It's over. So if you want to do something that would obtain the same reward by reviving a sunnah that had disappeared of the traditions of the Prophet ﷺ. When you live in a community where people greet each other with, what's up, how are you doing, and all of that, you say, what about Assalamu alaikum, tahiyyatuhum yawma yalqawnahu salam, and spreading the greeting of Islam, which is, peace be with you, God's blessings and mercy. So people adopt this greeting. The issue of eating with the right hand or reciting, for instance, if you inspire people to read a sabaq, or a word, or a daily homework of the Qur'an, and they listen to you and they do that on a regular basis. Who inspired us with that initially? It was the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So what you're doing is you're reminding. So everyone who follows your guidance, which is initially the guidance of a Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, is receiving his own reward. And a similar word of his will be deposited in your bank balance. Then a similar word of you guys will be deposited in the balance of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So if anyone goes to perform Umrah or Hajj and say, this is to a Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he's wasting the reward of his Umrah and Hajj, because whether you do it or not, it is going to him. But now you need to take care of yourself. You definitely need it. لا تزر وزرة وزر أخرى. The same would apply to any other person other than a Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, from Adam, because the sister was inquiring about from Adam till all the prophets. They are not in need for your ibadah. Alhamdulillah, shukla, they have received their salvation and they know their fate. You just worry about yourself. Perfect your ibadah. As far as reciting the Qur'an and giving the word, reciting the Qur'an is such a great ibadah that the scholar said it is the best act of worship. So maintain its reward for yourself. And once again, each time you recite, a similar word of yours will be going to a Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam and those who taught you how to read.
Jazakallah khair, Shaykh. We have Brother Muhammad with us now from Yemen. Brother, you're live on Ask Huda. Your question, please.
Hello, brother. How are you?
Wa alaikum salam. Alhamdulillah. Jazakallah khair.
I have one question regarding the trust code. I would like to know, how the Prophet ﷺ used to wear the dress, the thobe. How used? I see in the Arab world they use thobe, and in Indians, many of them they use that chubba, which will be a little up. And I want to know how the Prophet ﷺ used to look like.
Okay. Jazakallah khair. Jazakallah khair there, Brother Muhammad from Yemen. What a beautiful question. Jazakallah khair. Okay, we have Sister Maryam from Egypt. Sister, you're live on Ask Huda. Your question, please.
Hello.
Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.
Actually, I was born Christian, a Catholic, but now I am a Muslim, alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah.
I have two questions. One of it is, I've been reading a lot of books, and because I want to seek more knowledge. But when I try to discuss it with my husband about the things that I read, he tells me, from where you got the book. I said, I bought it in Saudi Arabia. He said that it's better for me to read books from Azhar. And then I asked why. He said because it's the books from Saudi Arabia is too much. I said, what do you mean too much? But then I said, anyhow, whatever I read, I try to find, ask knowledgeable people about if it's right or wrong. Second question is it haram or makruh to hang pictures and to hang also verses of Quran on the wall?
Okay.
Jazakallah khair.
Barakallah feek. Jazakallah khair. Sister Maryam there from Egypt. Okay, let's return to the questions. Sister Hisham had quite a few questions for us. Let's try and get through those. She said the first question, my uncle and auntie follow a particular person, and she said they're called a peer, somebody so-called religious, spiritual person. They say they follow him devoutly, to the extent that they don't pray or fast, and they say that by us following this particular person, he does this for us on our behalf. They spend certain days doing dhikr, a so-called dhikr. He spends time, this guy, with the women without a mahram and so forth. Recently, our uncle passed away, and her brother didn't want to pray salah on him, saying they don't know if he's a Muslim or not. Now, the situation is very important for her because she wants to give them dawah. What's the situation in this, Sheikh? How do you go ahead with this and verify if the person is Muslim at least?
Well, servitude in Islam means to turn yourself totally to Allah with submission. So whatever act of worship He prescribed and ordained upon us, we must observe perfectly, as much as we can afford. Inventing any new act of worship and dropping or dismissing prescribed and ordained ibadat is appointing yourself as a God besides God. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, وَمَنْ أَضَلُّ مِمَّنِ اتَّخَذَ إِلَهَهُ هَوَاهُ. And who is more astray than one who has taken his own whim or desire as his own God. Whatever he feels like, this is good to do. And whatever doesn't suit his mind, he dismisses it, even if it is from the Quran or from the Sunnah. And Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam ordained upon us 5 pillars to become a Muslim. Some of them are verbal, some of them are action, some of them are bodily, some of them are financial. By investigating all the pillars of Islam, we find that a person might be poor. And in this condition, the pillars of Islam for him will be only 4. Because he's not going to pay zakah. He's eligible to take. So we skip the zakah. And if the person is poor, that means he too will not be able to perform a hajj. لِمَنِ اسْتَطَاعَ إِلَيْهِ السَّبِيلَ. So he's exempted from hajj. So the 5 pillars have been reduced to only 3. And if he gets sick, he's exempted from fasting, especially if he's chronically ill. Then the pillars of Islam has been reduced into only 2, which is ash-shahada, to utter the word by the tongue, believe in it by the heart, then prove by actions one form of servitude, which is no human being who claims to be a believer is exempted under any circumstances, even if he or she is lying on their deathbed. No one is exempted from this ibadah under any circumstances. Whether you're sick, whether you're traveling, whether you are on a battlefield, whether you are a surgeon, a pilot, a captain, a train driver, no one is exempted. Only women during their menses are exempted from offering the salah. And they don't have to make it up. If any person, if anyone claims that because my connection to Allah has become very strong and my relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't need the prayer anymore, I can assure you without any doubt, there is a general consensus, such person is not a Muslim. You name him anything but not a Muslim. Then when he adds to that invents a new form of worship, where they dance with music and beating the drum, mixing men and women, also sometimes drinking and say, this is to get high so that we live in inspiration, in the remembrance of Allah. This is all from the deception of Satan. Such people are more astray than those who were born kafir. So, if any of them is in this condition, we must explain to them, you're going astray. We must inform them that this is not Islam. You don't belong to this ummah. I have sat with people in some cases for 8 hours in a row in a debate. It was with the Qadianis, Ahmadis and Baha'is. 8 hours. People are so confused. People are under the impression that they're worshipping Allah better than others, while they're astray. This is exactly the condition of the Meccan pagans before Islam and before the arrival of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Similarly, every unbeliever believes himself he's right, even atheists. So we have to verify to people who are following the wrong path, especially those who claim to be Muslims, that you're not really Muslim. You're not practicing Islam. The real meaning of belief in Islam is what you truly believe in it by the heart settles down in the bottom of your heart, then verify it through your actions. But if your actions proven otherwise, then you're confused. So we explain to them, when they reject that, and we explain to them from the Quran, from the Sunnah, from the Ijma', and they still reject that, they have declared kufr. So if any of them dies, then استغفر لهم أو لا تستغفر لهم إن تستغفر لهم 70 مرة لن يغفر الله لهم. Whether you ask for forgiveness for them or not, even if you continue asking for forgiveness for them up to 70 times or 700 or 7 million, Allah will never forgive them. So Salatul Jinazah, or offering the funeral prayer for the deceased, is a mean of mercy and invocation to forgive the person who is dead. And only those who die in a state of Islam are eligible for it. If somebody, after explaining to them that what you're doing is not Islam, and they insist on doing that, and ignoring the Salah, does not believe in its ordainment, and they're exempted from the Salah, such people are non-Muslims, and when they die, we're not allowed to offer the funeral prayer for them.
Jazakallah khair. Okay, before we get to our break, we have Sister Shayla from Yemen. Sister, you're live on Ask Huda. Your question, please.
Hello.
Hello. Assalamu alaikum, sister.
Hello, assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Your question, please, sister.
I just want to ask that in one of your programs, you said that one of the scholars said that if you want to ask guidance for your parents, then you can ask in sujood. I want to know that is there any specific dua which you can make while you are in sujood, or you can make it in fard prayer, or you should make a separate nafil prayer for it? I just want to know which like I don't have any clear idea what type of dua, how should I make this dua?
Okay.
Thank you very much. Jazakallah khair.
Barakallah feek. Sister Shayla there from Yemen. Okay, we've got Brother Farouk waiting from the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. Brother, you're live on Ask Huda. Your question, please.
Brother, I have a small question. Just what, in brief, the difference between the Wahhabis and the Sunnis? Because some people say they are followers of the Wahhabis. Just want a brief difference, I mean, in brief.
Okay.
Thanks a lot. Thank you.
Barakallah feek. It's Brother Farouk there from the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. And with that, we're going to take a short break and inshallah return in a couple of minutes. Stay with us. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
That the translation has been indirectly influenced with the Israelite narrative.
We haven't faced any problems in our preparations.
We can't call it the wise Hajj. In Egypt, you have a huge amount of initiative going on in terms of developing qualifications in different parts of the system.
Reading helps you gain knowledge, but saving the net doesn't help you at all.
They are all welcome to participate in the discussion and the debate about the development of qualifications.
What types of books our children do or should read?
Join me for further discussion of Focus Point.
Huda, a light in every home.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome back to Ask Huda. Let's just remind you of our telephone numbers. The country code is 202, then it's 38555, 248 and 249. And our email address is ask@huda.tv. Okay, Sheikh, let's see if we can finish off some of these questions. We had a second question from Sister Hisham. It's to do with praying with a sutra. She wanted to know, do we have to pray with a sutra? And you can explain what this is. And what's the responsibility if you pray behind somebody and that person leaves? What's their responsibility?
Well, whether you're praying in congregation, in the masjid, or at home or at work, every person must make sure that he or she is praying towards a sutra. What is the word sutra, as was mentioned in the hadith? It's something, an object that you put in front of you, nearby, so that people would recognize that you're praying. And this is your limit, that they should not cross before you within the distance between the sutra or this object. Let it be an object that's a pole, a pillar of the masjid, or the wall itself, or anything that movable that you put by yourself. A sutra is a must in the case of the prayer. And as the Prophet ﷺ said, وَلْيَدْنُ مِنْهَا, meaning, and to get close to it, or to bring it close to him, so that it will be a declaration that I'm praying and do not cross in front of me. Because crossing in front of somebody who's praying is a major sin. In addition to, it distracts the attention of the person who's praying, and of course nullifies his khushu'. The Prophet ﷺ said, if one who's crossing before the musalli would to know, it would be better for him to stand for 40 than just crossing before him. And the narrator of the hadith said, I'm not sure whether he said 40 years, 40 months, or 40 weeks. But let's say the least, 40 days, 40 hours. Because some people in the masjid, once they finish, they want to rush. And the people who came late are still offering the prayer. So they cross in front of several of them, that if you were to wait for 40 hours, which is the minimum according to the assumption of the hadith, would be easier, lighter, and better than just crossing before one person who's praying. And this is applicable everywhere, whether in the masjid or at home or anywhere. And that's why the musalli's responsibility is you must put the sutra by your own. What happens if you enter the masjid and the rows are extended all the way? Then you pray. So the person who's sitting in front of you is your sutra, as the Prophet ﷺ used to pray towards Aisha, for instance, or the pole of the masjid, or the shoe rack, or the bookcase, or etc. You must make sure that you're close to it, and if somebody tries to still cross, you must stop him by stretching out your hand, announcing that I'm praying, because the Nabi ﷺ, such case will be a shaitan crossing before you, and that will definitely distract your attention. If the person came to the masjid and he prayed behind somebody, then this person is dismissed. He should step forward to make sure that he has another sutra, because now he has to gain another sutra. Or the person who's leaving, if he recognizes that somebody who is praying behind him, as the sister said that she put her purse, Jazakallahu khairan, may Allah reward you for that. That's best, that's something good that you did. Main thing is that do not pray without having a sutra in front of you. That's if you're praying a singular prayer, or if you are the imam. What if you are a follower in a congregational prayer, in jama'ah? Then the sutra should be only put before the imam. If some people, for instance, some people void their wudu, or they remember in the middle of the salah, or once they started the salah, that they did not have wudu at the first place. So they take off from the salah and they go to make wudu. They have to cross before the lines. That's not a problem. Because in the case of the jama'ah, the imam is the leader. The followers are not responsible. As long as he does not cross before the imam, it is okay whenever it's necessary to cross before the followers.
Jazakallah khair, Sheikh. Okay, the last question from the sister, and I'm going to join it with the sister Shayla from Yemen's question. It's about supplicating in the Fard Salah in sujood. She says that contrary to what she thinks she's heard, and maybe she might have made a mistake, but we want to clarify it. It's reading a dua in the Salah, in the Fard Salah. How is it done? Is it allowed to be done? And like the sister says, what's the best way to do it?
There are questions which the shuyukh would expect. But this is a question which I don't understand why it's been frequently asked. Even though it is a very simple and it should be very well-known thing, which is, النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم said, أقرب ما يكون العبد من ربه وهو ساجد. يعني, any individual would like to know what pleases his beloved. Allah the Almighty says, what pleases me the most and what brings you closer to me the most is the state of prostration. So seize this opportunity. The Prophet ﷺ remarked saying, so make dua. He did not just say make dua, he said, فَأَكْثِرُوا مِنَ الدُّعَاء. يعني, make much dua, as much invocation, as much supplication as you can in the state of sujood, without distinguishing between the fard or the nafl. And the Prophet ﷺ used to supplicate in both al-fard or nafl, in the state of sujood. So once again, whether it's a fard or nafl, it is recommended to make dua while you are in a state of sujood.
And any particular dua? The sister was saying that for her parents, for example, is anything specific from the sunnah?
The sister was asking about making dua, and that the dua could change the nature of any person, not only the parents. And we drove the example of Abu Huraira, may Allah be pleased with him. Somebody was asking me the other day personally that his mother needs some guidance and so on. I said, what about dua? What do you do with dua? I mean, you make much effort advising her, guiding her, instructing her. What about dua? Abu Huraira's mother used to curse the Prophet ﷺ to the point that he could not take it anymore. He went to the Prophet ﷺ, said that I cannot take it anymore. I cannot mention your name before her. When she hears your name, she starts swearing, cursing. So ask Allah to guide her. And Nabi ﷺ did. And when he did, Abu Huraira just returned home. And he was expecting once again a list of cursing and swearing against Islam and Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But she said, who is this? He said, Abu Hurairah. She said, wait, stop it right there. I'm taking a bath. I have become a Muslim. I'm taking a bath to enter the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is the blessings of a dua. If anything is troubling you in your life, your boss, your employee, your wife, your children, your spouse, your parents, anything, then stick to dua. Adhere to invocation. As a matter of fact, we were talking about the current dilemma and the crisis in Gaza and so on. And I said that dua is the best and the most powerful weapon that the believers possess in their life. Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, brothers and sisters, during the battle of Badr, pointed to the places of the death of the Meccan tyrants. This is Amr ibn Hisham, Abu Jahl is going to die here. And Utbah and Shayba is going to die here, is going to die there. He pointed. So he explained to the companions the places of the death that's going to happen in the future, next day. Yet, while he was certain, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala informed him about how many would die and where, still, he spent the night raising his hands and making dua, asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So if your mother, if your parents are not rightly guided, if your children or your own self, that you are practicing a sin that you used to and you cannot get rid of it, increase making dua. And most specifically, in a state of sujood, فَأَكْثِرُوا مِنَ الدُّعَاءِ وَأَنْتُمْ سُجُودٌ.
Jazakallah khair, Sheikh. Okay, we have Sister Hadi from the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. Sister, you're live and ask her your question, please. Sister Hadi, are you there with us?
Hello, yeah, assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Well, I have two questions.
Okay.
First one is regarding the jinns. I want to know if jinns really exist and can they harm us or can they harm, like frighten a child or something?
Okay.
Like that. And what should we do in that case?
Okay.
And my second question is regarding something heard like Ruqya Sharia. What is it actually? What does Ruqya Sharia mean? And can we go to those people who are in the Ruqya Sharia for help, relating all these things, jinns and all that?
Okay. Jazakallah. Barakallah fiki, Sister Hadi there from the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. We have Sister Navir calling earlier from the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. She says, my son's name is Hafil Ahmed. She wants to know, is this allowed as a name, Sheikh?
I really don't know what Hafil means, yet as long as it doesn't carry a bad meaning or a meaning that contradicts the concept of faith, then it's permissible. The Prophet ﷺ used to change only names which carries bad or difficult or bad omens meaning.
Jazakallah khair. Okay, we had a question from Brother Abdul Rahman from the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. Brother, we did answer this question in lots of detail, even though you did call back in again. We answered it in detail, and it's not fair to go through that question again, but Jazakallah khair for alerting us to that. Brother Abu Nasr from the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, Sheikh, he asked a question about the sunnah prayers in the day. He wants to know how many are before the Fard Salah and how many are after, and how many you pray in the mosque and how many in the house, and what about the Jummah Salah, the sunnahs required for the Jummah Salah.
In the sound hadith, the Prophet ﷺ said that the best prayer a believer could offer is a prayer that you pray at home. Hold it right there. He said, except al-maktuba.
Subhanallah.
Except al-maktuba, except for the fard salah. You see the difference? So this hadith, while it is very brief, but it explains a lot. It explains that it is recommended, it is more superior, it is preferable to offer the nawafil, the extra prayers, the sunan at home. And the fard, you must offer it in the masjid. The opposite of the case of women. Because Humayd, I do believe there is another question is related to that.
That's the last question actually.
Humayd came to the Prophet ﷺ and she said, Ya Rasulullah, I love to pray with you in the masjid. And who wouldn't love to pray with the Prophet ﷺ? Mu'adh ibn Jabal had a very beautiful voice. So his people, he used to pray with his people in their masjid. They said, why don't you lead the salah? I said, I can't skip the Isha with the Prophet ﷺ. So they struck a deal that he would go and pray with the Prophet ﷺ and they would still wait for him. And once he would finish the prayer with the Prophet, he would go back and lead the prayer with them. So she said, I love to pray with you. And Nabi ﷺ said, لَقَدْ عَلِمْتُ ذَلِكَ. I definitely recognize that. Yet, Ya Humayd, your prayer in the corner of your room is much better than praying in the middle of your room. And praying in your room is better than praying in your house. And praying in your house is better as far as what? As far as reward. Better than praying in your local masjid. And if you have to pray in the masjid, then praying in your local masjid is much superior than praying with me in the prophetic masjid. The Prophet ﷺ said, one single prayer to be offered in his masjid is 1,000 times better than the same prayer if it is offered anywhere else. Or is better than 1,000 prayer anywhere else, except in Masjid al-Haram, of course. So the reward of one salah in the prophetic masjid is better than 1,000 prayer anywhere else. Yet, for a woman, the Prophet ﷺ said to her that praying at home, in your room, is better with regards to the word than praying with me, with the Prophet ﷺ in his life, in his masjid. And this is a sound hadith. But for men, the Nabi ﷺ said the best prayer is a prayer that you offer at home, except al-maktuba. So it is recommended for men to offer the nawafil at home. As far as the sunnah for Salatul Jumu'ah, there is only prescribed sunnah after the Jumu'ah. If you pray in the masjid, the Prophet ﷺ was not observed praying them 2 by 2. But when he postponed them and he offered the sunnah at home, his wives narrated that he only prayed 2. Accordingly, the scholars said, Sunnatul Jumu'ah could be 2 or 4. If you pray in the masjid, you pray 4, 2 by 2. If you postpone it until you go home, then you pray only 2. This is as far as the Jumu'ah sunnah. As far as before the Jumu'ah, there is no prescribed sunnah, but there is regular nafl. Pray as much as you want, but there is no prescribed sunnah such as between the 2 adhans like the regular prayers. Not with Jumu'ah. But there is Tahiyatul Masjid, there is regular nawafil. Then, for every single day, the best reference would remind us with the prescribed nawafil or as-sunanur rawatib, confirmed sunan, that Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam observed most of the time, and he may have skipped them just a few times, or if he was traveling. 2 before Salatul Fajr. Concerning these 2, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said they are better than the entire world and what it contains. Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. This is a sunnah. What about the Fajr itself? Inna Quran al-Fajr kana mashhuda. The 2 rak'ahs of Sunnatul Fajr is better than the entire world and what it contains. I am much richer than Bill Gates by praying Sunnatul Fajr today or tomorrow and observing them regularly. 4 before Dhuhr, 2 by 2. Then 2 after Dhuhr. So how many so far? 8. Then 2 after Maghrib and 2 after Isha. Total is 12. And this is what was reported in the hadith of Aisha, the sound hadith, when she said, the Prophet ﷺ said, whoever observes 12 rak'ahs during the day and the night, Allah will build a house for him in paradise. May Allah give us palaces in spacious places in heaven. Ameen.
Jazakallah Shaykh for all your answers today. Well, that's all the time we have for you today on Ask Huda. Please don't forget to send your emails to ask@huda.tv. Well, until next time, I'll leave you with Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.